Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales come to life. Enjoy the journey. The blizzard howled across Liaxa 7's desolate surface, a wall of white fury that could strip flesh from bone in minutes. The temperature gauge on Caden Rule's emergency shelter flashed a warning, -87 degrees Celsius and dropping. Through the reinforced view screen, visibility extended barely 5 meters before dissolving into a chaotic swirl of ice crystals and darkness. Caden's fingers trembled as he sealed the final breach in his makeshift habitat, half ice cave, half shuttle wreckage. 6 days since the crash. 6 days alone on this frozen hell. Structural integrity at 82%, announced the shelter's AI in its flat, emotionless voice. Recommend further reinforcement of the eastern wall before nightfall. Noted, Caden muttered, his breath clouding before him despite the shelter's heating system working at maximum capacity. He slumped against the shuttle's twisted bulkhead, now embedded in the ice cave's wall like some prehistoric creature frozen mid-emergence. His expedition had gone catastrophically wrong when the cosmic storm hit, an anomaly that shouldn't have been possible according to all known stellar charts. The navigation systems had failed completely just before impact, but Caden knew better than to believe in coincidences. He pulled off his thermal gloves and stared at his palms in the dim emergency lighting. Normal hands, calloused, scarred from years of field research. Yet he could still see them as they had been that day, engulfed in blue flame, energy crackling between his fingers as men in military uniforms crumpled and disintegrated around him. The memory sent a familiar pulse through the strange, branching scar on his chest. He pressed his palm against it through his thermal suit, feeling the slight warmth that never seemed to fade, even in this frigid environment. Location secure, he whispered to himself, a mantra repeated countless times since the crash. No one can find you here. No one will get hurt. Caden activated his portable scanner and reviewed the topographical map of his surroundings for the 20th time. The nearby mountains contained caverns that extended deep beneath the surface, possibly deep enough to escape detection from orbital scans. If the Axer Corporation sent search parties, when they sent search parties, he needed to be ready to disappear deeper into the planet's icy labyrinth. The nightmare came, as it always did when he finally surrendered to exhaustion. The laboratory burns around him. Scientists and security personnel scream as blue fire consumes them. In the center of the destruction stands 12-year-old Caden, eyes blazing with the same blue energy, his small body a conduit for something ancient and terrible. Through the chaos, he sees a small purple face with terrified eyes peering from behind a containment pod. Then everything dissolves into ash. Caden jolted awake, gasping. The scars on his chest pulsed with blue light that illuminated the shelter's interior for several seconds before fading. His hands shook violently as he fumbled for the water purifier. "Vital signs irregular," announced the AI. "Administering sedative recommended." "Override," Caden growled. Sedatives dulled his awareness, and awareness meant control. Control meant no one died. He forced himself to stand and began checking the shelter systems. The routine calmed him, mathematical certainties replacing the chaotic memories threatening to overwhelm him. "Mission log, Day 7, he dictated to the shelter's recording system. Surface temperatures continuing to drop. Geological scans indicate possible geothermal activity 2 kilometers below the surface. Will investigate once storm system passes. Food supplies sufficient for 63 more days at current rationing." He paused, then added, "No response to distress beacon. Maintaining radio silence otherwise, as planned." What he didn't record was that the distress beacon had been programmed to self-destruct after sending its single encoded message, a message not asking for rescue but warning others to stay away. The storm intensified as darkness fell. On Liaxa 7, night lasted 86 Earth hours. Caden had weathered 2 such nights already, but this approaching darkness promised to be far worse. He sat cross-legged on his sleeping pad, eyes closed, practicing the breathing techniques he'd learned after the incident. Inhale for 5 counts. Hold. Exhale for 7. The blue light beneath his skin remained dormant as long as his emotions stayed in check. A sound interrupted his meditation, distinct from the howling wind and creaking ice. Caden froze, listening intently. There it came again, a dull thud against the shelter's outer hatch. Not ice debris, too rhythmic, too deliberate, impossible. Nothing lived on the surface of Liaxa 7. His hand moved to the energy pistol at his hip as he approached the hatch. The scanner showed nothing but swirling snow, yet the thudding continued, weaker now, almost desperate. Steeling himself, Caden activated the exterior floodlight and cracked the hatch open a fraction. Bitter wind immediately knifed into the shelter, but what froze his blood wasn't the cold. A figure collapsed forward as the hatch opened wider, tumbling onto the shelter floor in a tangle of silver hair crusted with ice. The skin visible beneath the torn, inadequate clothing was a deep purple blue, like twilight sky reflected on polished amethyst. Blood, darker than human blood, nearly black, seeped from a wound in the figure's side. Not a hallucination, not human. Instinctively, Caden dragged the figure fully inside and sealed the hatch against the storm. The being, clearly female despite her alien features, lay motionless except for the shallow rise and fall of her chest. Her wrists bore raw abrasions, the unmistakable marks of restraints recently removed or escaped. The wound at her side showed the distinctive cauterization pattern of a plasma weapon. Saraya, she whispered, her voice barely audible before her eyes, startlingly silver against her violet skin, rolled back as consciousness left her. Caden stood transfixed, scientific curiosity warring with survival instinct. Her species was unknown to him, yet something about her seemed hauntingly familiar. He shook off the feeling and activated his medical scanner. Unknown physiology, the device reported. Closest match, Lintari. Database entry restricted. Axer Corporation security clearance required. Caden's heart hammered against his ribs. Axer. Always Axer. The corporation's shadow stretched across the galaxy, its tendrils reaching even to this desolate ice ball. Display vital signs regardless of species, he commanded. The readings appeared, and Caden didn't need specialized knowledge to interpret them. Core temperature dangerously low, heartbeat erratic, severe blood loss. Without intervention, she would die within hours. Setting aside questions of how she arrived here or what she was running from, Caden gathered his limited medical supplies. The wound required cleaning before he could apply synthetic skin. Her clothing, torn and frozen, had to be removed. As he cut away the fabric around her injury, he noticed intricate markings across her shoulder and back. Not tattoos, but patterns within her skin itself. Subtle variations in the purple coloration forming symbols he couldn't decipher, but which stirred something in his memory. "You're safe now," he said, unsure if she could hear him. "I'm going to help you." Her only response was a shiver that racked her entire body. Caden worked methodically, cleaning the wound, applying antiseptic, sealing the damaged tissue with synthetic skin. Throughout the procedure, his scanner monitored her vitals, which stabilized slightly but remained critical. Her body temperature especially concerned him, continuing to drop despite the shelter's warmth. Hours later, Saraya's eyes fluttered open. She immediately tried to sit up, then gasped in pain. "Don't move," Caden warned, keeping his distance to avoid frightening her further. "You've lost blood and your body temperature is dangerously low." Her silver eyes focused on him, narrowing with suspicion despite her weakened state. "Human," she said, the word sounding like an accusation. "Yes," Caden replied simply. "My name is Caden Roll." "Why, help me." Each word seemed to cost her considerable effort. "Because you needed it," he answered. "What happened to you? How did you get here?" Soraya's gaze darted around the shelter, assessing exits, potential weapons, the behavior of someone hunted. "Escaped," she managed. "Slavers. Axer control them." The name hung between them like a curse. Caden's scars tingled beneath his thermal suit. "You're safe here," he repeated. "Axer doesn't know I'm alive." A bitter smile twisted her purple lips. "Nobody's safe from Axer." She attempted to rise again, but weakness overcame her. The scanner beeped urgently. "Critical thermoregulation failure," announced the AI. "Subject requires immediate thermal intervention." Caden grabbed his emergency thermal blanket, wrapping it around her shivering form, but the scanner continued its warning. Her alien physiology required more heat than the shelter could provide to a separate sleeping area. "I have a thermal sleeping bag," he said. "Military grade. It will keep you warm." He retrieved the specialized equipment, designed for extreme conditions, capable of maintaining body heat even in vacuum conditions for short periods. Soraya eyed the narrow sleeping bag dubiously. "Too weak to move," she admitted, anger and frustration evident despite her failing strength. The scanner continued its urgent beeping. Caden made a quick decision and carefully lifted her, surprised by how light she felt despite her tall frame. Her skin radiated an unexpected heat where it contacted his, contradicting her dangerous hypothermia. He settled her into the thermal sleeping bag, activating its heating elements. The scanner's warnings decreased in intensity but continued. "It's not enough," he muttered. "Your core temperature is still dropping." Soraya looked at him, comprehension dawning in her silver eyes. When she spoke again, her voice carried both command and desperate plea. "Human, you must let me into the sleeping bag too. The night is very cold." Caden hesitated only briefly before nodding. Survival trumped awkwardness. He removed his outer thermal suit, keeping on the insulating underlayer, and carefully slipped into the sleeping bag beside her. The moment their bodies aligned, an unexpected sensation jolted through him, not unpleasant but startling, like a weak electric current passing between them. Soraya gasped softly, suggesting she felt it too. The scanner's warnings finally ceased. "Your body heat," she murmured, her voice stronger now. "Different from humans I've known." Caden maintained a careful distance within the confines of the sleeping bag. "And how many humans have you known?" "Enough to distrust them all," she replied. They lay in silence for several minutes, the only sounds the howling storm outside and the shelter's humming systems. Caden became acutely aware of her scent, something like bitter chocolate with an otherworldly undertone that reminded him of the emptiness between stars. "The storm will last for days," he finally said. "You should rest." "Why are you here, human?" Soraya asked instead. "This world holds nothing but ice and death." "That's precisely why I chose it," Caden answered truthfully. "Sometimes isolation is safer, for everyone." Something in his tone must have resonated with her, because her rigid posture relaxed slightly. "Then we share purpose, if not circumstance," she whispered. Gradually, the heat generated between them stabilized Soraya's condition. The scanner reported improvement in all vital signs. Against all odds, their breathing synchronized, creating a rhythm distinct from the chaotic winds outside. Through the next sleep cycle, Caden dreamed not of burning laboratories and screaming men, but of a purple-skinned child hiding behind research equipment, watching him with terrified silver eyes as blue fire consumed everything around them. He woke suddenly to find Soraya studying his face. "You called out in your sleep," she said. "Names I do not recognize." Caden looked away. Old ghosts. Those who died by your hand? Her directness startled him. Yes, he admitted after a long pause. How did you know? I recognize the look. I carry it too. She shifted slightly, wincing at the pain in her side. We should check my wound. Caden nodded and extricated himself from the sleeping bag, immediately missing its warmth as the shelter's chill embraced him. He gathered fresh medical supplies and returned to her side. This will hurt, he warned, peeling back the synthetic skin to examine the injury. Soraya didn't flinch, her discipline impressive. I've endured worse. As he worked, applying fresh antiseptic and a new layer of synthetic skin, his fingers brushed against a marking on her shoulder, a swirling pattern that seemed to ripple beneath her skin. The moment he touched it, the scars on his own chest flared with blue light. They both recoiled instantly. Soraya's eyes widened in shock and recognition. "What are you?" she whispered, fear and wonder mingling in her voice. Caden backed away, clutching his chest where the light still pulsed beneath his clothing. "I don't know," he admitted. "I never have." The silence that followed felt loaded with unasked questions and unspoken revelations. Soraya's silver eyes never left him, calculating, reassessing. "We should explore this cave system," she finally said, changing the subject. "If Axer follows my trail, we need alternative escape routes." "You're not strong enough yet," Caden objected. "I heal quickly," she countered, "and I prefer action to waiting for death." Over the next 3 days, as the storm continued its relentless assault outside, Soraya recovered with remarkable speed. Though still weakened, she insisted on helping Caden reinforce the shelter and map the surrounding cave system. During one exploration, they discovered something unexpected beneath the ice. Ancient walls carved with symbols revealed where thermal vents had partially melted the frozen cave floor. "These markings," Caden said, scanning them with his device, "they don't match any known language in my database." Soraya touched the carvings reverently, her expression unreadable. "On my world, we believe the creators made us," she said quietly, studying the images of tall, luminous beings manipulating energy between their hands. Nearby, smaller figures resembling Soraya's people knelt in supplication. But then they left, or were destroyed. Caden felt drawn to one particular image, a humanoid figure with light pouring from its chest, forming patterns identical to his scars. "What happened to your world?" he asked. Pain flashed across Soraya's features. Axor happened. Before she could elaborate, a shrill alarm pierced the silence. Caden's proximity sensors had detected something entering Liaxa 7's atmosphere. "We need to move," he said urgently, grabbing his equipment. "Now." Soraya's face drained of color, making her purple skin appear almost gray. "They found me," she whispered, raw terror in her voice. In that moment, seeing genuine fear from this proud, resilient woman, Caden made a decision that contradicted every instinct for self-preservation he'd cultivated since the incident. He would protect her, even if it meant unleashing what he'd kept buried for so long. "They'll have to go through me first," he said, his eyes momentarily flashing blue in the dim cave light. The Axer ship's landing thrusters carved massive steam geysers into Liaxa 7's frozen surface, the heat signature visible on Caden's portable scanner even from 3 kilometers away. He quickly collapsed his monitoring equipment and turned to Soraya, who stood at the mouth of the deeper tunnel they'd been mapping. "They've landed on the northern ridge," he said, checking the ammunition in his energy pistol. "Heavy-class corvette, military grade. Not slavers this time." Soraya's silver eyes hardened. They're evolving their tactics, realizing what they're truly hunting. The wind howled through the ice caverns like a wounded animal echoing their own desperation. Caden grabbed the emergency pack he'd prepared days ago for this inevitability. "We need to move deeper," he urged. These tunnels extend at least 7 kilometers toward the southern mountains. And then? Soraya challenged, her voice sharp with fear disguised as anger. Delay the inevitable. This planet is a trap now. Caden activated the tunnel's mapping projection, blue light flickering over his face. There's a possibility. A research outpost abandoned 40 years ago, built on thermal vents. If it still stands, it might have a functional communications array. We could call for help. Soraya laughed bitterly. From whom? Axer controls half the galaxy's shipping lanes and most of its governments. Anywhere a distress signal reaches, they have ears. Caden deactivated the shelter's remaining systems, programming them to self-destruct after their departure. Then we survive long enough to find another option. Move now, plan later. They plunged into the darkness of the deeper tunnels, Caden's illumination rod casting eerie blue shadows across walls of ancient ice. The temperature dropped further as they descended, but the howling of the surface winds gradually faded, replaced by the occasional crack and groan of shifting ice. After 2 hours of difficult travel through narrowing passages, they reached a cathedral-like chamber where massive ice pillars stretched from floor to ceiling. They paused to rest. Soraya's breathing labored from exertion that taxed her still-healing wound. "They won't give up," she said, accepting the nutrition supplement Caden offered. "Not this time." "Who are you?" Caden finally asked. "The truth. All of it." Soraya's gaze dropped to the frozen floor. For a moment he thought she'd refuse to answer. Then she straightened, her posture changing subtly, shoulders back, chin lifted, the bearing of someone taught from birth to command. "I am Soraya Elin Vos Lintari," she declared, her voice taking on a formal cadence. "Last blood princess of the Lintari Empire, daughter of Queen Alicia, heir to the 7th Concordance, and keeper of the Remnant Code." The words echoed in the chamber like a proclamation. "Lintari," Caden repeated. "My scanner recognized your species, but the data was classified. Axer security clearance required." "Of course it was," Soraya's mouth twisted. "They've tried to erase us from history itself. 15 years ago, the Lintari Empire spanned 7 star systems. We were peaceful, prosperous. Then Axor discovered what we protected." She paced the chamber, silver hair shimmering in the blue light. "They obliterated my homeworld in a single day, billions dead. They hunted the royal family across the stars, my father, my brothers, my cousins, all executed." Her voice didn't break, but Caden caught the slight tremor in her hands. "My mother and I escaped with a few loyal guards. We hid for years, moving constantly. Then they found us on Tarsus Prime. My mother—" She swallowed hard. "She died ensuring I escaped." "I'm sorry," Caden said, the inadequacy of the words striking him even as he spoke them. "Save your pity," Soraya snapped. "What I need is your understanding of what they want." She faced him directly. "They discovered that only royal Lintari blood can activate the Creator's artifact, a relic our people safeguarded for millennia. It controls energy at the stellar level. Imagine weaponizing a sun, redirecting its flares at will. That's what they hunt me for. That's why they'll never stop." Caden absorbed this information, pieces of a puzzle slotting together. "And that's why you have the markings? Part of your royal bloodline?" "The concordance patterns, yes." Soraya touched her shoulder where the swirling designs lay beneath her skin. "They react to the artifact, and apparently to whatever you carry within you." The mention of his condition made Caden instinctively press his hand against his chest, feeling the familiar warmth of the scars beneath. With the revelation of Soraya's identity, a memory flickered at the edges of his consciousness, a memory he'd buried deep. "I think," he began slowly, "I think I've seen you before." Soraya stilled, watching him intently. 12 years ago, an Axer research facility on Ganymede. I was 14, orphaned after the Mars colony collapse. The words came haltingly as Caden forced himself to confront memories he'd suppressed for years. They told us we were part of an educational program for displaced children. In reality, we were test subjects. He leaned against an ice pillar, suddenly dizzy as the memories flooded back. They were experimenting with embedded energy matrices, searching for compatible human hosts. Most of the children died. I survived the implantation but showed no special abilities. Until... Caden closed his eyes, seeing it clearly now. The laboratory, the white-coated scientists, the military guards. Until the day they brought in a small alien girl with purple skin. They had her in a containment pod. They were extracting her blood and she was screaming. Soraya's breath caught audibly. Something in me broke, watching them hurt her. The crystal they'd embedded in my chest activated. Blue energy poured out of me. I couldn't control it. Everyone in that lab was incinerated. Caden opened his eyes, meeting Soraya's shocked gaze. Everyone except you. I remember opening your pod before I collapsed. Then nothing. They must have separated us, wiped our memories. It was you, Soraya whispered, taking an involuntary step toward him. All these years I thought it was a dream, a blue angel who saved me from the White Room. Her silver eyes widened. You're a creator shard bearer. That's what Axer was attempting to replicate, the ancient power of the creators themselves. Before Caden could respond, his scanner beeped urgently. Movement. 3 kilometers back, advancing quickly. They found our trail. They hastily gathered their supplies and pressed deeper into the tunnel system, forced to crawl through some passages where the ice had nearly sealed the path. The temperature continued to drop, but, strangely, Caden found himself sweating. His chest burned where the scars mapped his skin. Something's wrong, Soraya said, noticing his discomfort. Your eyes, they're glowing. Caden struggled to control his breathing. It's been happening more frequently since you arrived, since we connected. They emerged into another large chamber, this one different from the others. The ice here was clear as glass, revealing something embedded deep within. Stone walls, angular structures decidedly artificial. A structure, Soraya breathed, buried in the ice. Caden approached the nearest ice wall, wiping away frost to peer deeper. Not just any structure. Look at these symbols. Carved into the stone beyond the ice were markings identical to both Soraya's skin patterns and Caden's scars. A creator temple, she whispered reverently. They found an entrance where thermal activity had partially melted the ice, revealing an ancient doorway. Inside, preservation was remarkable, artifacts and inscriptions untouched by time in the frozen tomb. These writings, Soraya said, tracing symbols on a wall. I can read some of them. My people preserved fragments of the creator language. As they explored deeper, they discovered a chamber containing what appeared to be journals or logs, crystalline data storage that still functioned after untold centuries. Nearby lay the desiccated remains of what might have been human explorers, their equipment bearing the logo of an early expedition company that predated Axer. Caden examined one of the crystal data terminals. These are in English, a human expedition from 40 years ago. He activated the log, and a holographic recording flickered to life. A woman in an outdated thermal suit, her face haggard with exhaustion and excitement. Day 103 of the Liaxa expedition, the recording began. We've confirmed our hypothesis. The creator artifacts we discovered contain viable energy matrices, crystalline structures of immense power. Following protocols established on Titan, we've implanted volunteer Jensen with the smallest shard. Initial results promising, but subject experiencing elevated cardiac response and neural anomalies. Further observation required. The log ended abruptly. Caden activated the next entry. Day 117. Disaster. Jensen lost control of the shard energy during standard testing. 3 team members dead. Subject contained in stasis. Requesting immediate evacuation and Class 3 containment protocols. The energy output exceeded our measuring capabilities. God help us if Axer discovers what we've found. Soraya's expression darkened. But they did discover it. This expedition never returned, did they? No, Caden confirmed, checking the remaining logs. The final entry indicates Axer ships approaching. They must have intercepted the distress call and took the creator shards for their own experimentation, Soraya concluded, leading eventually to you. Caden stared at his reflection in a polished ice wall, noting the faint blue glow in his irises. I was their successful prototype, a human capable of hosting creator energy without immediate death. But not without cost, Soraya observed. The trauma, your fear of your own power. Before he could respond, the scanner beeped again, this time with multiple proximity alerts. They're coming from 2 directions, Caden warned, checking the display. They've split their forces to trap us. There, Soraya pointed to a narrow passage leading deeper beneath the surface. That's our only option. They hurried through the constricted tunnel, forced uncomfortably close in the tight space. Caden felt the heat of Soraya's body against his back, her breath on his neck. Despite their dire circumstances, his awareness of her physical presence intensified. The passage opened into a smaller chamber with a startling feature, a pool of steaming water, heated by the geothermal activity deep beneath the planet's surface. Hot springs, Caden said in disbelief. The thermal readings were accurate. Soraya touched the water cautiously. This could mask our heat signatures temporarily. They're tracking us with thermal imaging. The sounds of pursuit grew louder, the clank of military-grade exoskeletons negotiating the ice tunnels. They had minutes at most. We need to move again soon, Caden said, but we can rest briefly. You're still not at full strength. Soraya nodded, sinking wearily onto a stone outcropping near the pool. Steam rose around her like a spectral shroud, lending her purple skin an ethereal quality. Why help me? She asked suddenly. Most humans would have turned me in for the reward Axer certainly offers. Caden considered deflecting, but found himself answering with unexpected honesty. I know what it's like to be a weapon, to have others see you as nothing but your potential for destruction. Is that all you see when you look at yourself? Soraya challenged. A weapon? Isn't that what I am? What we both are? He gestured to the space between them, designed for power, hunted for it. No, Soraya said firmly. That's what they want to reduce us to. My people were guardians, not weapons. We protected balance in the universe. And you, her voice softened, you used your power to save, not destroy. I killed dozens that day, Caden countered. To save a child, she reminded him. Intent matters. Something shifted between them in that moment, a connection beyond their shared circumstances. Caden found himself moving closer to her, drawn by an impulse he couldn't explain. On my world, Soraya said quietly, we had forests of silver trees that sang in the wind, oceans so clear you could see the ancient cities beneath them. Our people lived for centuries, guardians of knowledge other races had forgotten. Earth has oceans too, Caden responded, suddenly wanting her to know him beyond his power. And rain, water falling from the sky, drumming on rooftops. The sound used to help me sleep as a child. Rain, Soraya repeated the word like a prayer. I've read about it, but never experienced it. Their eyes met across the small distance between them. Steam swirled in the space, carrying Soraya's unique scent, that strange combination of bitter chocolate and stellar void that had haunted Caden since their first night in the sleeping bag. Neither could say afterward who moved first. The kiss happened like inevitability, tentative at first, a question neither had words to ask. Soraya's lips were surprisingly warm against the frigid air of the cavern. Where their skin touched, her purple flesh shimmered with a faint luminescence, responding to his proximity. Caden pulled back slightly, searching her silver eyes for confirmation. "I've never—" "Nor I," she admitted. "My life has been running, hiding. There was never time for—" The moment balanced on a knife's edge, possibility and doubt warring in equal measure. Then the distant sound of pursuit shattered the fragile connection. "They're close," Caden warned, reluctantly breaking away. "We need to move." They had barely gathered their supplies when the first energy blast struck the chamber entrance, sending ice shards exploding inward. 3 armored figures emerged through the steam, bounty hunters in Axer-manufactured combat suits. "Surrender the Lintari female," the lead hunter commanded, his voice mechanically amplified. "Cooperation ensures your survival, human." Caden stepped protectively in front of Soraya. "Not happening." The hunter raised his weapon. "Then your remains join hers in Axer's labs." Time seemed to slow as the hunter fired. Caden felt something building inside him, the power he'd suppressed for years responding to Soraya's presence, to the threat against her. For the first time since the laboratory incident, he didn't fight it. Blue energy erupted from his hands, not the chaotic explosion of his childhood, but a focused beam that intercepted the hunter's blast and continued through to strike the attacker. The man disintegrated instantly, armor and all. The other hunters opened fire. Caden extended both hands, blue flames engulfing his arms to the elbow as he projected a shield of energy before them. The hunter's weapons had no effect. "Run!" he shouted to Soraya, strain evident in his voice. "I can't hold this forever!" Instead of fleeing, Soraya pressed her hand to his back. Instantly, he felt her energy joining with his, purple light intertwining with his blue, strengthening his power. With a roar of effort, Caden pushed outward and the remaining hunters were reduced to ash. The power receded, leaving Caden gasping and weak-kneed. He collapsed to the stone floor, Soraya catching him before his head struck rock. "How did you control it?" she asked, cradling his head. "I didn't want to," he admitted through ragged breaths. "Not completely, but something's changed. When our energies connected, it felt directed, purposeful." "You're one of them," Soraya whispered, awe in her voice. "A creator shard bearer, the only human to successfully bond with their essence." Caden tried to stand but couldn't muster the strength. His vision blurred around the edges as post-energy exhaustion claimed him. "More will come," he warned weakly. "Then I'll protect you this time," Soraya declared, lifting him with surprising strength. "There's another passage behind the spring. We need to find somewhere for you to recover." As consciousness faded, Caden felt Soraya's arms around him, strong, sure, protective. Their roles reversed from when they'd first met only days before. Hours later, he awoke in a new chamber, this one smaller but remarkably warm. Another hot spring bubbled nearby, larger than the first, filling the space with mineralized steam. Soraya sat beside him, her silver hair loose around her shoulders, her vigilant eyes softening when she saw him stir. "Welcome back," she said. "Your body temperature dropped dangerously after you used your power. I remembered what you did for me." Caden realized he was partially submerged in the hot spring, his upper body supported on the stone edge. More significantly, Soraya was similarly positioned beside him, her purple skin glistening with moisture. "How long was I unconscious?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "Hours. I've been monitoring the scanner. No signals yet, but they'll regroup eventually." Caden studied her face in the ethereal light of their small illumination rod. "Thank you for not leaving me." "I couldn't," she said simply, then with more intensity. "I wouldn't." Something had fundamentally changed between them, the shared danger, the revelation of their connected pasts. the merging of their energies during the fight. Caden felt it like a physical presence in the warm, close air of the chamber. "In the other chamber," he said hesitantly, before we were interrupted. Soraya moved closer, her silver eyes reflecting the condensation droplets on the chamber ceiling like stars. "Yes?" Words failed him. Instead, Caden reached out, gently tracing the concordance patterns on her exposed shoulder. This time, when his scars responded with blue light, neither pulled away. Soraya's skin illuminated in response, purple luminescence following the path of his fingers. "If I die," she whispered, her voice dropping to a register he hadn't heard before, "I want to die with you inside me." Caden pulled her closer, the waters swirling around them. "Then you won't die," he promised against her lips. "You'll live. You'll bear life." Their bodies met in the healing waters, blue and purple light intertwining in the steam above them, creating a private cosmos of their own making. Caden's scanner blared with multiple proximity alerts, the screen lighting up with approaching heat signatures from all directions. He silenced the device, but the damage was done. Their brief sanctuary had been compromised. "Axer's finest," he said grimly, studying the tactical display. "Not bounty hunters this time. Military-grade cybernetically enhanced soldiers, at least 12, converging on our position." Soraya studied the ancient temple walls surrounding them, her fingers tracing the intricate patterns that matched both her skin markings and Caden's scars. 3 days had passed since their union in the hot springs, days spent exploring deeper into the Creator Temple complex while evading Axer patrols. What they'd discovered changed everything. "We can't run anymore," she said, her voice steady despite the fear Caden felt through their newly forged mental connection. "This isn't just about us now." Caden nodded, his hand unconsciously moving to her abdomen where his modified scanner had detected the impossible, a viable embryo formed from their genetic material despite their different species. The child was barely a week into development, yet already emanated a faint energy signature that combined both his blue resonance and her purple frequency. "The temple's inner sanctum," he agreed. "The recordings we found suggest it contains a planetary defense system. If we can activate it, we need both the Shard-Bearer and Royal Lintari blood," Soraya finished. "Us. Together." The decision crystallized between them. Stop running, make their stand. The temple's ancient technology might shield them not just from Axer's current forces, but render the entire planet invisible to future pursuit. They moved swiftly through the labyrinthine corridors of the temple complex, Caden consulting the map they'd pieced together from expedition logs and creator symbols. The temperature dropped further as they descended toward the planet's core, yet neither felt the cold anymore. Their connected energies generated enough heat to sustain them. "The sanctum entrance should be beyond this chamber," Caden said, as they entered a vast hall where massive crystalline formations hung from the ceiling like frozen chandeliers. "Caden." Soraya's voice halted him. She stood before an engraved wall panel, her expression stunned. "These records, they're complete. The entire history of the creators and my people." He joined her, examining the intricate symbols. "Can you read them?" "Enough to understand." Her finger traced a specific section. "The creators didn't leave or die out as my people believed. They evolved, transcended physical form." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "The shards, like the one in your chest, they're fragments of actual creator consciousness left behind to guide younger races." Caden's scars tingled at her words. "And your people, the Lintari, created specifically as guardians." Soraya's hand moved to another section of text. "Our biology was designed to resonate with creator energy, to access their technology without being consumed by it. That's why Axer couldn't simply use the artifacts themselves. They needed Lintari blood as a key." A distant explosion rocked the chamber, ice dust raining down from the ceiling. The Axor forces were blasting their way through the temple's outer chambers. "We need to hurry," Caden urged, pulling her toward the inner doorway. The sanctum lay beyond a massive circular door covered in luminescent symbols. At its center, two distinct impressions waited, one shaped like the branching pattern on Caden's chest, the other matching Soraya's royal markings. "Both of us," she confirmed. "Together." They positioned themselves before the door, exchanging a look that conveyed more than words could. In the short time they'd known each other, they'd moved from reluctant allies to something neither had experienced before, a connection that transcended physical attraction or circumstantial necessity. "Whatever happens," Caden said, touching her face gently, "finding you made every moment of pain worth it." Soraya leaned into his touch. "You saved me twice, as a child, and now, this time, we save each other." They pressed their hands to the impression simultaneously. Light erupted from the contact points, Caden's blue, Soraya's purple, spreading through the network symbols across the door. With a deep, resonant sound like a massive bell struck beneath an ocean, the circular portal began to split open. As the door parted, the unmistakable whine of energy weapons charging echoed from the entrance to the crystal chamber. 6 black-armored figures moved in precise military formation through the doorway, their helmets featuring red sensor arrays rather than visors. Each soldier's armor bore cybernetic enhancements, shoulder-mounted targeting systems, arm-integrated weapons, and most concerningly, chest-embedded crystals that pulsed with sickly green light. "Creator Shard technology," Soraya gasped. "Corrupted. Inside now." Caden shoved her through the partially opened sanctum door as the first energy blast struck the wall beside them, vaporizing ancient stone. The sanctum door continued its ponderous opening, too slow to provide immediate protection. 3 Axor soldiers advanced while the others laid down covering fire. Caden summoned his power, blue energy cascading down his arms as he projected a shield before them. The first soldier fired directly at the energy barrier. Unlike the bounty hunter's weapons, this blast penetrated Caden's shield partially, dispersing but not completely neutralizing. The impact sent him staggering back. "Anti-creator weaponry," he grimaced, feeling the shard in his chest pulse painfully. "They've been preparing for this." Inside the sanctum, a raised dais dominated the center of the circular room. Above it hovered what appeared to be a 3-dimensional map of the star system, rendered in glowing energy. Crystalline control panels surrounded the dais, their surfaces etched with the same symbols that adorned the walls. Soraya rushed to the nearest panel. "The activation sequence. I recognize some of these patterns from our royal archives." Caden maintained his position at the door, straining to hold back the advancing soldiers. "How long?" "Minutes, at least," she called back, her fingers flying across the crystal surfaces. "The system's been dormant for millennia." The lead Axor soldier stepped forward, removing his helmet to reveal a face more machine than human, pale skin intersected with metallic implants, eyes replaced with multi-spectrum optical units. "Caden, roll," the soldier announced in a voice modulated to carry over the weapons fire. "Axor Corporation appreciates your service in leading us to both the Lintari Royal and this facility. Surrender now, and Director Helios authorizes full citizenship and genetic stabilization." "You know my name," Caden replied, his shield flickering as he struggled to maintain it. "But you don't know what I am." The soldier's mechanical eyes adjusted focus. "Subject CR 742, Creator Shard experimental implantation, partially successful. Power classification, beta level, unstable. Termination authorized if capture proves problematic." With a surge of effort, Caden expanded his energy shield, pushing back the soldiers temporarily. He retreated toward the dais where Soraya worked frantically to activate the ancient systems. "They're using countermeasures specifically designed against creator energy," he warned her. "My power won't hold them for long." Soraya didn't look up from the control panel, her hands illuminated with purple light as she interfaced with the technology. "I need more time. The system's scanning my genetic pattern to verify Lintari royal lineage." The sanctum door had fully opened now, allowing the entire Axer squad to enter. They spread out in tactical formation, their corrupted shard implants glowing brighter as they drew power. Caden planted himself between them and Soraya, summoning every ounce of power he could muster. Blue flames engulfed his entire body, his eyes blazing with cerulean light. "Last chance, CR 742, the lead soldier announced. "Director Helios specifically requested your live capture. The female and the temple technology are our primary objectives." "My name," Caden growled, "is Caden Raul, and she is Princess Soraya of the Lintari. Remember those names when you report your failure." He struck first, channeling his energy into a concentrated blast that caught the nearest soldier directly in the chest. The man's corrupted shard implant absorbed much of the attack but overloaded, exploding outward and taking a significant portion of his torso with it. The remaining soldiers opened fire simultaneously, their weapons emitting not standard energy pulses, but sickly green beams that seemed to corrupt the very air they passed through. Caden's shield held against the first barrage, but hairline fractures appeared in the energy barrier. Behind him, Soraya cried out in triumph as the control systems finally acknowledged her. The star map above the dais flared brighter, zooming in to focus on Liaxa 7. "Caden, the final sequence needs both of us," she called. He couldn't retreat. The moment he dropped his shield, they would be exposed to direct fire. "I can't leave this position." "Then I'm coming to you," she declared. Before he could protest, Soraya left the dais and rushed to his side, her hands glowing with purple energy that she immediately channeled into his faltering shield. Their powers merged, strengthening the barrier temporarily. "We need to reach the central dais together," she explained urgently. "Both of us, simultaneously activating the core systems." Caden nodded grimly. "On my mark, we make a break for it." He gathered his energy for one massive offensive push, feeling the shard in his chest burning hotter than ever before. Soraya's presence amplified his power, their energies resonating in perfect harmony. "Now!" he shouted, converting their shield into an explosive wave that blasted outward, sending the Axer soldiers flying backward. They sprinted for the dais, but the tactical commander had anticipated the move. He fired not at them but at the ceiling above their path. Massive ice crystals crashed down, separating them. Caden skidded to a halt on one side, Soraya on the other. "Go!" he shouted to her. "Reach the controls!" The Axer soldiers regrouped quickly, concentrating their fire on Caden now. One beam caught him in the shoulder, burning through his protective energy field. Pain lanced through him as the corrupted energy interfered with his shard connection. On the other side of the fallen debris, Soraya had reached the dais. "Caden, I need you here." He fought desperately, trying to clear a path back to her. Two more soldiers fell to his attacks, their implants catastrophically failing under the onslaught of pure creator energy. But for each one he defeated, the others adapted, their weapons adjusting frequency to better counter his powers. The tactical commander analyzed the situation and made a strategic decision. Ignoring Caden, he redirected his squad to target Soraya at the control dais. She had no defensive capabilities like Caden's shield, only the offensive power of Royal Lintari energy. "No!" Caden roared, seeing their strategy. He abandoned all defense, channeling everything into speed as he vaulted over the ice debris. Time seemed to slow as he saw the commander raise his weapon, taking careful aim at Soraya's unprotected back. Caden reached her just as the commander fired, throwing himself into the path of the green energy beam. The corrupted power pierced straight through his chest, exiting his back in a spray of blue-tinged blood. The blast continued, grazing Soraya's arm but sparing her a fatal wound. He collapsed against the dais, blue energy leaking from the catastrophic wound. The vibroblade component of the specialized weapon had shattered the creator shard embedded in his heart. "Caden!" Soraya screamed, catching him as he fell. Her silver eyes reflected his fading blue light. Through their connection, he felt her pain as if it were his own, a tearing sensation deeper than physical injury. The soldiers advanced methodically toward the dais, weapons ready but not firing as they assessed the situation. Caden's vision blurred, then strangely sharpened. As his physical body failed, his consciousness expanded in ways he'd never experienced. Memories cascaded through his mind, not just his own but ancient ones, belonging to the creator whose shard he carried. He saw the birth of stars, the seeding of planets with life. He witnessed the creator's ascension from physical forms, their decision to leave fragments of consciousness behind to guide younger races. He saw the creation of the Lintari, the guardians meant to protect the balance of energy in the universe. And he saw Soraya as a child in that laboratory, her existence the culmination of a genetic lineage designed over millennia. He had saved her then not by coincidence but by design, their meeting part of a pattern established long before either was born. "They're coming," Soraya whispered, tears streaming down her face as she cradled his broken body. "I can't activate the temple defenses without you." Blood bubbled from Caden's lips as he struggled to speak. "You won't have to." With supreme effort, he turned his focus inward, addressing the fractured shard in his chest, not as a foreign object but as part of himself, a consciousness he'd denied full integration with for years. "I surrender to you completely," he communicated silently. "No resistance, no fear. Protect them, Soraya and our child." The response came not in words but in a flood of energy unlike anything he'd experienced. The shattered shard fragments in his chest began to glow, repairing themselves, merging more completely with his failing biological systems. Caden's body lifted from Soraya's arms, hovering above the dais as blue light poured from every cell. His mortal wound closed, not healing but transforming into pure energy. His eyes opened, now twin stars of blinding blue radiance. The Axor soldiers opened fire desperately, but their corrupted weapons had no effect on what Caden was becoming. His consciousness expanded beyond his physical form, connecting directly with the temple systems through the dais. "Fall back," the commander ordered. "Containment Protocol Alpha. Too late." Caden, or what had been Caden, extended his arms and waves of purified creator energy swept through the chamber. The soldiers with corrupted implants disintegrated instantly, their perverted technology no match for the original power source they had attempted to replicate. The energy continued outward, racing through the temple corridors, encompassing the entire complex, expanding to the planet's surface and beyond. On the Axor ships in orbit, alarms blared as sensors detected the massive energy surge before communications abruptly ceased. In the sanctum, Soraya watched in awe and heartbreak as Caden completed his transformation. His physical form was dissolving now, becoming pure energy that interfaced directly with the temple systems. The planet's defensive network activated fully, a shimmering field extending from the core to the outer atmosphere, rendering Liaxa 7 invisible to outside detection. Before his humanoid shape completely disappeared, Caden looked at Soraya one last time. His face was serene now, filled with the wisdom of ages, yet still recognizably the man she had come to love. He drifted down to her level, one luminous hand gently touching her abdomen where their child grew. "I will protect you always," he said, his voice resonating with harmonics that seemed to vibrate the air itself. "Even when you cannot see me." "Don't leave," Soraya pleaded, reaching for him even as her hands passed through his increasingly insubstantial form. "I'm not leaving," he promised. "I'm becoming something more, something that can truly keep you safe." His physical form collapsed into a brilliant flash of light that momentarily blinded Soraya. When her vision cleared, floating before her was a small blue crystal pulsing with the rhythm of a heartbeat. As she reached for it, the crystal moved on its own, settling gently into her outstretched palm. The temple hummed with new life, systems activating throughout the complex as the creator technology responded to the combination of Caden's transcendent energy and Soraya's royal blood. The star map above the dais showed Liaxa 7 now encapsulated in a protective field, hidden from the rest of the galaxy. Soraya sank to her knees on the dais, clutching the crystal to her chest. Through her tears, she felt a flutter within her abdomen, the first perceptible movement of the life they had created together. Simultaneously, she heard Caden's voice in her mind, clear as if he stood beside her. "I am with you. Always." Epilogue. 3 years later, Soraya stood on a grassy hilltop that had once been buried under hundreds of meters of ice. In the years since Caden's transformation, Liaxa 7 had changed dramatically. The temple's activation had altered the planet's core energy, creating a habitable zone that expanded daily around the temple complex. The crystalline structure of the temple now rose majestically above ground, its spires reaching toward the stars like a beacon. Around its base, the once frozen wasteland had transformed into meadows dotted with strange, luminescent flowers that had lain dormant beneath the ice for millennia. Soraya had built a simple dwelling near the temple entrance, using materials from the abandoned research outpost and technology from the temple itself. The defensive field that hid the planet from outside detection had an unexpected property. It allowed Soraya to selectively broadcast a signal that only certain receivers could detect. A beacon for others like her, survivors of Axer's genocide seeking sanctuary. In her arms, she held her daughter. The child had purple skin like her mother, but with subtle patterns of blue luminescence that appeared when she laughed or dreamed. Her eyes were Caden's, gray-green with occasional flashes of blue light when emotions ran strong. Her face carried human features blended harmoniously with Lintari characteristics. Every night, the child slept with the blue crystal nestled against her heart. Each morning, Soraya would find her daughter conversing with unseen presences, giggling at secrets only she could hear. This morning had been different. The child had looked up at Soraya with uncharacteristic seriousness for one so young and said, "He talks to me, Mama. He's inside. He protects us." Now, standing on the hilltop with her daughter in her arms, Soraya smiled through tears. "He promised he wouldn't let us freeze." The little girl reached upward toward the stars, visible even in daytime through Liaxa 7's transformed atmosphere. For a brief moment, it seemed the stars flickered in response, patterns of light shifting in impossible configurations. "Your father created a new world for us," Soraya told her daughter, "and someday we'll build a home here for everyone seeking refuge." On the horizon, a small ship descended through the planetary shield, the first of the refugees who had detected their specialized beacon. Former subjects of the Lintari Empire, survivors of Axor's expansion, people of a dozen species united by their need for sanctuary. The child in Soraya's arms laughed suddenly, a sound of pure joy. As she did, her eyes flashed brilliant blue, exactly like her father's, and for a heartbeat Soraya felt Caden's presence surround them both, as tangible as the warm breeze that caressed their faces. "Not the end," his voice whispered in her mind. "Just a new beginning." The crystal at the child's throat pulsed once, twice, matching the rhythm of their three hearts beating as one family, separated by transformation, but united by something far stronger than mere physical form. As new arrivals approached across the flowering meadow that had once been barren ice, Soraya squared her shoulders, embodying both the royal dignity of her heritage and the fierce protectiveness she had learned from Caden. The night might still be cold in this remote corner of the galaxy, but they carried their own warmth now, a light no darkness could extinguish.